YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. This is the Knitting Attorney Podcast, episode 7? Might be 7. I'm Joni, and this is where I talk about my knitting. So, if this is not your first episode watching, then you'll probably notice that I am in a new space. So, yeah, spoiler alert, I haven't gotten a lot of knitting done this week because I've been focusing on cleaning my house and rearranging the rooms. And so this room that I am in right now at one point was largely storage from my previous apartment, but I am now converting it into my yarn room / bedroom. So yeah, I got it pretty much cleaned up. There's a few things left to do, but I figure at the end of this video I'll give you a little bit of a tour. So let's start with the knitting. Like I said, I didn't make a whole lot of progress, also because it's been less than a week since my last video because of the whole delay going to a funeral. So, but I have a few things to share. So no FOs, but first whip that I want to show is my Express Yourself sweater for the Knit Collage Cal. And as you may be able to see, I reached sleeve and body separation. I finished all of the colorwork charts for the yoke, and I think it's coming out really, really cute. I think my gauge is a little tight because it's looking pretty small, but I'm hoping a good block will help with that. But yeah, here is what the color work looks like when it's all completed on here. There's still some more color work for the sleeves, but I'm pretty proud of this progress, and at the moment I just have to knit it around until the body is at the proper length. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this is going. It's really soft, and I think it's going to be really warm. So I also have a couple whips that I'm not going to share, as I said in my last episode. Holiday knitting and some of the recipients of said knitting are going to be watching this video, so I can't necessarily share, but I do have one holiday project that I can. So I went to CC's Wool as usual and bought a skein of Malabrigo's Caracol yarn, and with that I have made this lovely hat for my mother. I still need to weave in the ends. I have blocked it because I wasn't sure about the sizing of it, and I think I'm going to use the remaining yarn to make a pom-pom for the top. So this is what it looks like on. I think it's a little bit small maybe, so I think the pom-pom will help add a little bit more height and drama to it. But the colorway of the yarn is Paris Night, and it's this really pretty blues and purples and navy, and I think my mother will really like it. And I should not remember the name of the pattern off the top of my head, but I'll put it in the description box. But it's fairly simple, done with this bamboo stitch, which I had never done before. And I think with the kind of thick and thin texture of the yarn, plus all the varied colors, it just kind of looks not so much stitch definition-y, but just like nicely textured. And yeah, so I should have this finished shortly. I can't imagine it's going to take me that long. I just need to take a day for actually knitting rather than what I've been doing, which is cleaning. So I'm just gonna put that away. So I thought I would pull out a couple of other whips that are in the forgotten whips category. So this one that I've done a little bit of work on is from Wool and the Gang, and it is their quarterback dress. And this is the front, and it is literally just a rectangle of stockinette. So I'm not really sure why I'm showing you, but it's done in their Sugar Baby alpaca yarn. This is the shade Martini Gray. And this is kind of the first pattern I completely fell in love with because, well, this is the front and it's just a rectangle basically. The back has this really lovely like low scoop that I thought was so cool because it's like a sweater dress, but it's also kind of sexy. And yeah, I am really in love with the design regardless of how simple it is. But it was definitely expensive. It was one of the first kits I bought, but I didn't start it until I had done quite a few more other patterns because it was like one of those ones that was so important to me to get it right that I was actually afraid of starting. But yeah, anyway, I started and it's coming along pretty good. And it's done with this yarn held double, so it's like a DK weight, and holding it double, it's more like a thick, kind of bulky kind of deal on 5mm US 8 needles. So it goes relatively fast. I still have like 60 rows left to do, and then I can start doing the interesting part. So another kit, because again, I have this weird addiction to them. It's not the most like knitterly knitting on the planet, but I don't know. I enjoy it. Do what makes you happy. If you like having everything coming in with the pattern and the yarn, if you enjoy that like I do, you know, not having to think about it, then go for it. That's what brings you joy. So this is yet another one. It is the plush pulp coat, and this has got to be, I think, the second most expensive yarn purchase I've made. I think my first knit collage sweater was slightly more expensive. This was like, oh, do I even want to share how much it was? You can look it up online. It's pretty pricey. It's a lot of yarn. It's like 16 balls of their crazy sexy wool, which is already like, what, like $20 a ball? Something like that. But yeah, it is essentially a coat done entirely in this loop stitch, which I really want to get finished for this winter because I think it'll be extremely warm and extremely cute. So it's definitely slow going just because the loop stitch is like so many steps to create the loops. But it's very chunky, so it also gains length pretty fast. But yeah, I'm going slow on this because I'm sort of having some thoughts about like how to make this a more functional winter coat. And I'm thinking I want to bring it to a seamstress and get a lining sewn into it. And I think I also want to leave a space when I seam it up for pockets. And I also want to maybe put buttonholes in the front because the way it's designed, it doesn't have those. So when I'm thinking about going into those modifications, even though they're technically very simple to accomplish, I think there's a part of me that's like a little bit nervous of, you know, what if I make a false move here and that makes it impossible later? So yeah, that's why this one's been kind of languishing, is my wanting it to really function as a coat and not just a extraordinarily thick, heavy cardigan. So yeah, hopefully I'll have more progress on that. You know, I think if you've been watching my videos, you know how I am, how I just bounce around between projects all the time. Well, this isn't meant to be like me being a super professional knitter. This is actually how I knit. So yeah. So last whip to share, and this ball of yarn is falling apart. Horribly put into a ball. So this is the actual first shawl design I ever liked. When I first started knitting, I was like weirded out by shawls. It was just not a garment or accessory that really seemed to fit into a modern day wardrobe. But I saw this shawl design, I forget where, And I was like, okay, that I can get behind. And since then, I've gradually kind of gotten more and more into shawls. So I've only completely knitted one, but this is the second one I've decided to start. And this is called the Moonlit Shawl. It's by Darling J'adore, and it is, at this point, very small, but it is kind of just a simple stockinette with these 3 sections of yarn overs to create this kind of pattern. And I saw the product photo and I loved everything about it down to the yarn, so I actually bought the recommended yarn, which is the Yarn Bee Soft and Sleek DK in cedar. And I ordered it online, totally panicked that I wouldn't be able to get this exact yarn because I wanted that exact shawl from the photos. So then it sat in my yarn collection for a long time. And finally, I think after I went through a frenzy of some holiday knitting, because in addition to that hat I showed you, I did a couple other things, and it was in 2 days I knit a bunch of projects, start to finish. And I had been through so much of a frenzy, plus the cleaning, that I was looking at all my current whips and just wasn't feeling inspired as I usually would. So yeah, that's why I decided to start this, because it's something I've wanted for a long time, but I just haven't started it yet. So yeah, it is still tiny. It's going to be a pretty large crescent shawl at some point. I can already tell the way this is coming out that it's going to be an absolute bitch to block, so not looking forward to that, especially because this yarn is acrylic, and so it's probably going to be steam blocked, and yeah. So that was all the whips from this week. Unfortunately not a whole lot going on, just because everything I explained before. Oh, by the way, random life thing. I was at my parents' house last night and my mother was talking about all the cremated relatives that she has somewhere in a closet, and she was talking about buying a burial plot and asked me if that's what I want, and I'm like, if that is my birthday present, I'm gonna be very angry. I don't want a burial plot for my birthday. Because, by the way, my birthday is next week. I'll be 29. I accept gifts in the form of subscribing, turning on the notification bell, following me on social media. Shameless plug. Okay, and so last thing I have to share before I show you around my yarn room is I have one yarn acquisition. And this was a little bit of an early birthday gift to me and from myself. This is Cece's Wool, and it is their cashmere merino sport weight. Yeah, it's so pretty. It's this kind of interesting texture with cashmere and merino. And I think I've already showed a skein of this that I got that was dyed, naturally dyed with tansy, but they got restocked with the undyed versions, and I got a couple skeins, and I'm thinking at some point, probably closer to my birthday, I might pick up a couple more skeins so that I can make a nice sweater with them. But yes, just treating myself a little bit because I deserve it. Yeah, so I think I want to show you guys around my yarn room, or at least what I have of it. So, in the interest of not doing any editing, I am going to just pick up this camera. So, as you can see, this is where I have my yarn. So, I have a big mix of things in here. A lot of Lion Brand, some Wool in the Gang, a lot from Knit Crate. There's some Malabrigo in there. Let's see, that one is from Birch Hollow Fibers. And I just dropped some. There's some knit collage here. That guy just fell over here. yeah, so you can see there's these drawers, which I assembled yesterday morning. It took me like 2 hours to do. They're from IKEA, and they're going to go underneath the bed when it's eventually in here, but I haven't received the frame yet, and the mattress that's going to go on that is currently in a storage unit. Here is a ladder, which I put some cute little Christmas lights on, and that goes up to the attic, which up there, as you can see, there is a ton of paintings and stuff from back when I was an art major in college. Because, yeah, interesting thing, I was an art major. Eventually I want to clear that out and potentially make like a little like knitting space up there. I think that would be nice and cozy. Here are a couple of paintings I did also in college, and I do note they're uneven. They were just sitting against the floor, so against the wall on the floor, so I just stuck a nail in the wall to get them off the floor in the interest of decluttering, and eventually I will straighten that out. A disabled smoke detector up there. I don't know why it was disabled exactly, but I believe it was because I was filming a like parody ASMR video that I entirely lit with candlelight, and so I didn't want the smoke detector to go off, and I never replaced the batteries. So yeah, I will fix that. Don't worry, there are plenty of smoke detectors in my house. Here's another painting I did, which is on the floor currently because you might be able to see that the glass is broken, and I'm not really sure what the best way to go about lifting that up without having it shatter and possibly cause injury is. So if you have any ideas for that, let me know in the comments, because that needs to get moved. Over here, I have a bunch of fabric scraps from back when I used to sew a lot. And here is a shelf with lots of stuffed animals. This is where I'm currently storing my whips when I'm not filming. I have some cool knitting books and art books. Some books that I'm going to be moving from here. They're like old antique books that I got from my parents. Little embroidery kit. Some more whips, which I haven't even talked about. And yeah, some other books and stuff. Over here is a desk which will be moved out. Sewing machine. I have some etching I did back in college. Just going through that because it's kind of cool. Those were 3 from the same plate. There's that one. Also same plate. And another different plate. Here's some of my big skeins and one small one. And this is a little invite from when I was in my senior year of college and we did a gallery show. And this is something that needs to be really cleaned out. This is all my old painting supplies, including this lovely jar of like years old terpenoid, a ton of candles, which were from a project I did where we burned effigies out in the woods behind the sculpture studio. Just tons and tons of paints, which need to be gotten rid of. Nitrile gloves, because oil paint is dangerous. Crap ton of brushes. Yeah, I need to get rid of like all of this. And some wet Swiffer pads, because the floor still needs a good scrub down. So yeah, anyway, that was a brief tour of this room. Obviously it still needs a lot of work, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks it'll make progress. And hopefully eventually I'll have a really nice professional looking YouTube setup. But anyway, yeah, that was pretty brief, but I hope you enjoyed seeing this brief look into my life, and my space, and my whips. So anyway, I will see you next week. I hope you have a good week, and I hope you enjoy my birthday, December 3rd, because it's the most holy day of the year. Anyway, bye-bye.